Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Jeremy Scott Fitness Podcast, a radio show coming to you on this Sunday, fun day, July the 12th, 2020. Hopefully it finds you staying safe and staying sweaty. And if you're in Arizona like I am, you are for surely sweaty because it's like 115 degrees today. But it's a dry heat, so it's not that bad, they say. Honestly, when you're not in the sun, it's not terrible. When you get in the sun, bro, man, you start dripping some serious body butter. But we're here today with a little Q&A podcast. All the requests from you guys. So we're going to be answering the questions you asked via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, LinkedIn, email, and everywhere else you guys bombard us with the questions. But this podcast is brought to you by my homies over at Athletic Greens. If you guys are still not eating at least 4 to 5 servings of greens per day, plus your fruits on top of that, I would highly suggest you guys pick up some Athletic Greens. You guys can hit me up for 20 free travel packs. I'll shoot you the link, Athletic Greens /Jeremy Scott. You can hook it up. Otherwise, just message me and say, hey, Jeremy, I'm not sure. You've talked about these things a million times. I want to try them. I literally will have Monica mail you a pack to your front door. Throw it in some water, slam it, you'll know how awesome it is, and then I'll shoot you the link for the 20 free travel packs to make your life a little bit easier. Again, it's the one thing I take every single day in terms of supplements. I never miss it because even for me, being a health professional, I struggle eating 5 servings of greens 365, especially if you travel or do anything, like you go on a hike for 5 hours or something, or you're on a bike ride, you're not in your normal routine. How are you gonna get that many greens in? It's just really tough to do. And again, it's the best tasting greens in my opinion. And if you're talking like no GMOs, no herbicides, no pesticides, no artificial colors, flavors, preservatives, or sweeteners, it's gluten-free, dairy-free, corn-free, egg-free, peanut-free, no animal byproducts, no lactose, no sucrose, no dextrose, and it's lifestyle friendly for all my crazy people out there who are vegetarians, vegans, paleo, keto, Whole30 people. It works for you. So hit me up. I'm happy to shoot you guys a link for 20 free travel packs. Otherwise, if you're really nervous about it, I can have Monica mail you one. You can try it, and then we can go from there. So with that, we're going to jump into all of the questions you guys have asked. So let's just go right down the list here. First one, in another life, MMA fighter or any sort of ball player is the question. Well, since last night, and I'm super tired today, by the way, I'm exhausted. If you can see me on YouTube, I look like I slept in a trash can. I stayed up way too late. I watched the UFC pay-per-view last night, Fight Island, Masvidal and Usman. I thought it was a great card. If you guys are UFC or fight fans, I am. It's literally during this, season of life we've been in since basically March. There's been no sports on, and I can't really go anywhere or do anything. So The Last Dance with Jordan and the Bulls and UFC have been the only real 2 things I've been watching, other than when Ozarks popped on, or I watch all 8 seasons of Log Cabin Living before bed because it kind of puts me in a good mood. And a side note, I do those things, you guys, because it's low stakes, right? Like there's nothing. It's not global news. It's not this, sad, depressing stories and these things. And I think sometimes when life is heavy, just, put something light on to make you feel good. And I've been doing that for a long time, and I'll touch on that in this podcast because there's a couple of questions that ask about that. And I think when you look at Netflix, honestly, it's why whatever that show is, it's like the floor is lava or something. And I watched like 10 minutes of an episode one night before bed. First of all, I thought it was terrible. They had the most unathletic family on there. No offense, I'm not trying to judge, but they were like, oh, I don't think I can make it. I'm like, dude, most people I know could get that course done in like 5 minutes. Anyways, my point is, I'm like, how is The Floor is Lava like the #1 show on Netflix, or like in the top 10 on Netflix? And then I thought about it. I'm like, well, because it's light, man. It's fun. It's almost like something that's cartoonish, and it makes you feel good, and it puts you in a good mood. It's the reason why I watch The Office before I go to sleep, or Parks and Recs, or why I've watched Back to the Future, or i.e. why I've watched 8 seasons of Log Cabin Living over the past 4 months, because it puts me in a good mood, and I don't have to consume all the negative shit and the fear-mongering stuff that goes on in the world. And on a side note, which has nothing to do with this question, and as you guys know on this podcast, I'll get off topic a lot, I don't think we're meant to watch global news as humans. No, I have no issue with anybody who does. Some people think I'm stupid and I'm an idiot and I'm not informed if I don't watch the news. I'm not saying I don't consume educational content. I just choose not to believe the news, whether it be CNN or Fox or whatever. Like, you can watch these news episodes that should be, looking at everything on an even playing field, but I can watch CNN, it tells me one thing, and the same day I can watch Fox and it'll tell me another, but it's on the same topic. It's like, well, which one is correct, right? And so the reason I say that and I bring that up is because, like, global news is everything. And if you watch stuff that's going on all over America and then all over the world, you're gonna find some negative shit. Like, they're gonna report, there's gonna be some hate or some violence, or there's going to be these things that are going to just make you feel a certain kind of way. And typically they're things that don't make you feel good. So like anything, when we talk about, get out and vote, I think voting is an amazing right you have, especially as an American, but start locally. Like, you vote local. And what I say is, like, you watch, it's your local community. And again, I'm not even a fan of local news, but worry about what's going on in your house, before you worry about what's going on in the White House. And I believe that. So I think, the point of driving in is, if you're going to watch stuff and be informed, do things that affect your immediate circle and then branch out from there, because you can't consume all of that, negative stuff all at once. And the point I'm driving at is, I like to watch things that are a little bit lighter. And so during this season of life, the UFC has been that for me. So thank you, Dana White, for putting on all these amazing fights. And I watched the full card last night. I thought it was good. I watched it with two of my friends who literally have seen nobody as well. And it's the first time I've hung out with them this entire time, which is crazy. And I got one friend, he works from home, and he goes to the grocery store and he goes home. He literally has been nowhere, which is crazy. And then my other buddy works mostly from home, and then he runs a warehouse. And they all social distance in the warehouse and wear masks, and it's a very small crew. And even last night we didn't, we're dudes, we don't sit super close to each other. We socially distance naturally. But it just felt some semblance of normalcy last night to chill with them and watch the fights, which didn't end till like 11:20, which I haven't seen 11:20 p.m. you guys in a very, very long time. So needless to say, I'll be either taking a nap today or be going to sleep about 6 p.m. So to the question at hand. In another life, MMA fighter or ball player? I for surely would go ball player, just for the fact that I respect MMA fighters. I think it's amazing, even for somebody who watched last night, like the main event, the Masvidal-Usman fight. People are like, oh, it was so boring. I'm like, well, if you were in the ring with Jorge Masvidal, like, what would you do? You would do anything you could to win, whether that be wrestle him to the ground, pin him up against a cage. Like, I'm not going to stand in the middle of the ring with that dude. He's an animal. Like, he'd knock me out in probably 20 seconds. Like, I think people from the outside sometimes would, if you've never fought like in a cage, in an octagon, in a ring, you have no right to judge anybody who fights. Like, I just think that there should be like a $10,000 fine you have to pay anytime you criticize the guys who are fighting. Because these are two dudes who go into a cage and they lock the door and they go into combat. Like, that's some violent shit, man. And I had the utmost respect for them. And they don't get paid that much comparative to what they're doing. So if you had asked me, like, if I was, could be, in another life, I definitely would play in the NBA, because it's like, especially now with the contracts, even the low-level dudes make a shit ton of money, and like decent dudes are making, multi-million dollars per year, and they're playing a kid's game. They're playing basketball. Like, that's probably the best life ever. They fly in private jets, and they typically live this lavish lifestyle. And on a side note, my Instagram suggested feed mostly for me is trucks, firearms, MMA fighting, and then basketball. Literally, there's no fitness, because I don't really, regardless of what people live, I don't watch other people's fitness content. I just really don't care for, other than my friends, we talk to each other and communicate. But the point is, I'll see like these guys now in the NBA, because the NBA is going to start here, and they're starting already. They're practicing. They're going to play in a couple of weeks as their plan. And they're in a bubble in Orlando, and they're all kind of quarantined in there, and they test them all the time. And a lot of these players are complaining about, the room they're staying in, the food they're eating, and things. And I understand it's an adjustment for them. If they are worried about, the virus, if they're, sad about not being around their family, I truly understand that that's a hard adjustment for anybody. But some of these guys are making $7 million a year, and they're in the safest probably place in America right now, staying in a hotel room, playing video games most of the day, practicing basketball, and getting food delivered to their room. Now, it's probably not their $10 million mansion, and it's probably not Mastro's what they're delivering to them, but they're complaining about it, some of them. And I'm like, you got to understand how you sound. You're playing basketball in a bubble where everybody's tested, and when you're not playing basketball, you're playing video games and you're getting food delivered to your room. While there's people out here dying, and there's other people out here who are fighting, to keep their business alive, or they're fighting just to keep their job, or they're on unemployment, not knowing where their next meal is going to come from, and you're complaining. And I chalk that up to some of them just being, kind of tone deaf, or being, you're a 25-year-old kid, and you don't understand how you sound to the rest of the world. But when you see it from the outside and you hear them, like, I get it for you guys, it's not great, but you're still making $7 million a year. And you're staying in a hotel. So it could be way, way worse. But to answer the question in a roundabout way, I definitely would go like a basketball route, or probably the easiest job in pro sports. I don't know if it's the easiest, but like being a punter for an NFL team, I think would probably be easy enough, because it's like you're punting the ball, which it matters, but it's not like you're gonna probably win or lose the game on that. So there's not as much pressure as like the kicker, and you really don't get hit like a wide receiver gets hit. So I don't think that'd be the most fun. I think like being on a basketball team, like if you're on the Lakers, like your life is probably pretty good. If you're on the Miami Heat, it's like, I live in Miami, I'm on the Heat, I go to practice, I can hang out at South Beach, and you're probably making, $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 million a year. Yeah, I think I can do that. Next question. Efficiently flowing from exercise to exercise in a home gym environment to maximize time. Honestly, circuits are great. Obviously, the time circuits, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, 1 minute on, 1 minute off, that 1-to-1 ratio stuff works. Or if it's more strength stuff, maybe, 30 seconds on, a minute off, or 90 seconds off, something like that. That's an easy way. Once you're on a timer, your brain can't wander and you're just going to flow through it. Or what I've been doing, honestly, and I'll do another podcast on how I train lately, or like my typical training routine. We'll do like a part 2, because from the first one I did, my training has shifted a little bit now, just because this year has been so kind of ass backwards, and I know a lot of you guys like to listen to that kind of technical stuff. But in terms of being efficient with your training time in a home gym, or any gym for that matter, setting a clock for, like, I've been doing a lot of these 30 minutes, basically from 20 to 25 to 35 minute AMRAPs, so as many rounds as possible. So I'll set the clock for 30 minutes, and maybe I'll go through like split squats, kettlebell swings, sled pushes, and like deadlifts. And I'll just set a rep scheme. Maybe it's 10 and 20 and 50 yards and 5 or something. And I'll see how many rounds I can possibly go through in 30 minutes. So the workout can't be longer than 30 minutes. And then the pacing's on me. So if I want to make it more strength heavy, I can load it heavy. If I want to make it more aerobic, I can obviously lighten the loads, and I can speed up the rest times. But I think that's a great way. So set time intervals, or like the just, one big time block, or workout time blocks work as well. Like, 5-minute blocks on, 2-minute blocks off. Things like that are all great to be efficient, especially when you have limited time or space or equipment, or honestly any time. It works. Obviously, I have a whole, I have a 3,000 square foot warehouse here. I can do my thing. And so it works anywhere, but I think for you guys at home, it specifically works. Next one, top 3 supplements you recommend taking every single day. Easy enough. Athletic Greens, for sure. Again, if you guys want the hookup, message me. I'm happy to hook you guys up with it. Again, I can't say enough good things about them. I do feel it's one of the main reasons why I have the energy I have. And, I just feel better on it. Digestive system, everything. It helps. Next, Athletic Greens, I would say an omega krill oil, I think is ideal. So your omega-3s, your krill oils. Again, right now, JLab has a discount on all their products for, I think, until Thursday, the 16th at midnight. So if you guys want to try the krill oil I take, in terms of getting high quality omegas, if you're not eating enough fish, I think even if you eat fish every day, which almost nobody does, I think you should supplement with an omega-3, like a krill oil product. I think it would be beneficial. And now the third one, it's tough to say. If you want even more probiotic love, you could go the probiotic route. I do because I value gut health. Now, in Athletic Greens, I do have a pre and probiotic digestive enzyme kind of blend in there. So for most of you, it's probably not necessary. I just do it because for me, and again, it all comes down to you as an individual. So I know my gut and I know what it needs and I know what I feel best on. So I do that route. But if you are not going to do that, I would say everybody else, I'm going to go 3/4. Probably like a D3 and a zinc, I think is ideal. Now I'm just going the straight immunity route, like what's going to make you the healthiest. I think having enough D3 in your life, enough vitamin D, and having enough zinc, I think is ideal for you guys. And again, if you're not out in the sun, at least probably 20-30 minutes a day, which is the best way to get D, you have to supplement it. Your body's not going to create on its own. I think zinc for a lot of people too, just in terms of keeping your immune system running on high. So Athletic Greens, krill oil, omegas, and then like probably like the zinc kind of D route, and then obviously probiotics would be in there. But we have a whole free supplement guide. If you guys want it, message me. I'm happy to send it to you. And then all the stuff I do, and I have a full video on YouTube and my IGTV of all the supplements I've been taking during this, kind of, season of life that we are in right now. If you guys want to check that out, and then obviously any of the products that I take, you can message me. I'll shoot you the links to them, and you guys can try them for yourself. Next one: in what way do you plan your weekly workouts? My personal ones, again, I'll do a podcast on this in greater detail, but I tend to do like 4 legit loading days, like an upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. I split them up that way. I'll compartmentalize those into kind of like a strength and hypertrophy. I'll mix those up. But again, this season of life has been weird, so my schedule's been off. It's been different, so I will do some of the Ambrand stuff. Sometimes it's more aerobic, sometimes it's not. But I like to do at least 4 days of legit loading, and then usually on, like, for me, like on a Wednesday is my easier day, which tends to be more aerobic, a lot of mobility, a lot of tissue work. Saturday tends to be something kind of similar. Maybe I'll do, heavy farmer's carries with like, some air mill work, and then obviously built-in mobility, and then maybe work on some weak point stuff like grip work or things like that. And then Sundays, I get into like our advanced Metcon, like these terrible workouts that you guys tend to love, and I share with all you guys, which eventually will be a program. We almost have that program content-wise done, which doesn't mean done for you guys, but almost the content is completely created there. So we will do like a Sunday advanced Metcon series, or like I don't know what I'll call it, like 25 days of Sundays or something like that, where it'll be like a 25 workout flow over the course of maybe 50 days. It'll either come out at the end of 2020 or sometime, early 2021, depending on what our business looks like and what the world looks like at that point. But that's kind of how I do my week. So like 5 harder days and then 2 easier days. And then obviously if I go, hiking or paddle boarding or play basketball or ride bikes, like obviously that slots into like an easier aerobic day. But that, for the most part, is what my week kind of looks like. And then obviously we film content here usually 2 specific days of the week. Our inner circle group gets stuff kind of every day, just me kind of video walkthroughs of what we're doing. And then we'll do a lot of video content usually on my lighter aerobic days because I have energy and I'm not super sore and tired, which I've found over time tends to work better for video. Next one: what were your jobs before you became who you are today? Well, I don't know who I am today. If you guys know, please send me a message. I'm just trying to figure it out like everybody else. And especially now, it's just so weird. We're all in a weird space where we're doing a lot of self-questioning, or at least I hope you are. Or you're taking this time to ask yourself, what you really like, who you really are, what you really want to do with, the current, time you have, and then obviously with your future. I think that's always changing and shifting. I think that's kind of the beauty of life. It's the unknown is scary, and the unknown also keeps it fun and fresh. And knowing that we're not going to be here forever gives us a sense of urgency, laced with patience, hopefully, but also makes us understand how important every single day is, hopefully. And if you don't, just you only have so many 86,400 seconds to be gifted, and you can't waste them. Even though some of these days right now might feel less than optimal, but you can still make the most of them in the context of where you're at. But to answer the question, What jobs have I had before I came where I am here today? I've really only had one real job ever in my adult life, I guess. And I was an academic advisor for military students. So I would give them academic advice, if you will. Mostly the grunts, the badasses, we like to call them, the associates level guys. Typically, first and second year college students, transitioning who are either active duty military or are, out of the military. And back then they were using like the Montgomery GI Bill to get their stuff done. So we'd work on like, could they get credit for, depending on what their job was in the military, whether it was like they're infantry guys or if they were doing like helicopter repair, whatever their job was, depending on what branch they were into and what kind of degree they wanted to get into, whether it be like criminal justice or who knows. So I worked with a lot of military guys too. Obviously all military students or spouses of active duty military. And then obviously a lot of the guys on the enrollment side I think they're all from military people. So like the lady I worked with, Angel, who was on the finance side. So like I'm talking academics, she would do the finance. Her husband was active duty military. I think he still is, out here at Luke Air Force Base. And then a lot of the other guys we work with, Jan, Mike and them, like those are all military dudes. Like Jan was a combat vet, dude, and he also wrestled in the WWF or WWE, which is crazy. Now I think he has his own whiskey too. He's a Renaissance man. Dude's just a fucking badass though. Like he's a dude, like when you think like military dudes, like he's the dude. Like Army combat vet, like kicked down the door and just like started fucking shit up. Like he's a gangster. And so, but he's a big dude, bigger than me. And he also loved wrestling. And he was like, yeah, man, I wrestled in the WWE. It was like one of his dreams. And so, anyways, that was the only real job I had. I mean, other like, growing up and stuff. I washed dishes at this place called Chula Vista, Mexican restaurant. I did that as a kid. What else would I do? I worked at Kmart. As well, if you guys are from the Midwest, Kmart, I was like to, check people out at the register. Kmart sucked for sure. What other jobs did I have? My mom worked for this auto manufacturing, like parts place. She was one of the managers there, sales managers. And she got me a job one summer. I did like packaging for them. So I worked in the warehouse sometimes, packaging like, what are those like? The grinding wheels, like the wheels that like they use them like in car manufacturing. And I packaged a lot of stuff there. So I worked in the warehouse a couple summers. And then the one summer I sold these things called Sturdy Steps. This is a terrible job. Sturdy Steps are like the steps that you would sell to like your auto mechanic that would help him like step up onto a truck. And so like whether he had like a Snap-on or Mac tools or something, and he would have like, he could put his tools there and also step up onto it. So he didn't have to use like a crate or something dangerous to get up into a truck or look at it, depending on what kind of setup he had. So basically I would roll up into this place in the summer, tired as shit, hating my life. Again, I was not the person you're listening to today, this motivated person who works 100 hours a week, who tries to help everybody. I was not that at 20 years old or 19 or 21, or I just was not that human yet. So don't picture this other version of me. But I roll in there tired as shit, hating my life, and like, 10 minutes at work would feel like 10 hours. Where now it's like 10 hours at work sometimes does feel like 10 minutes. I'm very blessed to be able to do what I do most days. And you basically get this huge cold call list. And you would just call like, Rick's Auto Body and be like, hey Rick, this is, Jeremy from Goodson. I'm calling to sell you this Sturdy Step. And like, the hang-up rate was probably about 90%. So out of every 10 calls, 9 people would hang up on you and tell you how much you suck. So I learned a lot about what I didn't want to do at that job, and I learned a lot about just rejection, losing, and not being great at making sales. But I did sell some Sturdy Steps. Just I wasn't the top salesman for sure. And my mom wasn't my boss. The guy she was in charge of, his name was Matt Rudnick. Matt was like super inappropriate. Matt would come to work sometimes hungover, talk about porn. He just was not a great leader, if you will. Super fun guy for a 20-year-old to have as a boss, but just really sometimes didn't feel like he had his shit together. He would joke a lot. So yeah, wasn't great at the sturdy steps. Other than that, I laid sod as well, so landscaping I would do. I worked at a golf course with one of my best friends, which was kind of fun, like in the cart barn. You like give the guys their golf carts in the morning, you set the carts up, help them put their clubs on and off. You worked on tips basically, drive the range. So like obviously if people are hitting golf balls in the range, you would get in the big cart. And back then I obviously was addicted to chewing tobacco, so I would chew. I put a big chew in, put my iPod in, and just listen to like, Tupac and drive around the range and just, pick up range balls. And then I did that with him, which was actually fun. I enjoyed it. It's not a career, obviously, but I had a good time there. We did a lot of inappropriate shit there too. Upsell people on range balls and just a lot of, just things you do when you're young and stupid. And then what else did I do? I worked construction, a lot of demo shit, and hanging drywall and things like that. The very basic stuff I could do, or at least help out with. But a lot of that, I'm trying to think, those are probably all the jobs that I really had. I mean, like anything else, like a ref basketball, umpired baseball, all those kinds of things just to make money. And so I would hustle for sure, but one real job was it, and then here I am today. So all those failures. There's some other stories in there I could share too. The last one I'll share is this. I did have I did get an interview here, and I actually quit like the day before I met my wife, Heather. And it was like an at-risk kind of youth facility, and I got a job as like one of the counselors that would be there, like not like not like a summer camp counselor, like the next level up. So it was a real job. Obviously my degree, my undergrad and stuff's all education based, so like special education was a background, and then I did some internship work with similar kids to this. When I say kids, I'm talking like 14, 15, 16, 17, all the way on up, before they turn 18. And I got the job. I was going through the training, and they're just talking, like, they're sharing some of the stories, like one of the kids, like, cut his wrist the day before, and some other horrible stuff I heard, like in the first, basically 2 days of training when I was there. And it just was really, it's just really sad to me. And personally, I've had enough sadness in my life, and I've seen enough bad shit, and I've witnessed enough bad things, and I've been around enough people who've been through horrible things, and I've been in those environments. And even after 2 days of just listening to it, I'm like, this is too much for me, man. I can't take this on. So I always say this: bless the hearts of people who are social workers and teachers, of people at like at-risk or alternative schools and things like that, because man, it's a lot to chew on for like really shitty pay. And or like people who are like police officers. Like police officers go through so much, and there's so much trauma, and it's so traumatic of what they have to hear and go through for like what I consider not to be great pay. And I just couldn't do it. So I quit that job. But here's the story. Here's how I quit it. I've told this before on the podcast, I think. But anyways, I remember them saying, like in the orientation, hey, we will mail you like your first check. You can't. It's not going to be direct deposit. We'll mail you the first one, then we'll hook it up. And so I went through the training for 2 days. And at this time, you guys, I'm dead broke. I have no money. I just moved here. Like I have nothing. I packed up my car. I moved across the country. I had nothing. I'd like, by the time I paid rent, I had like less than $2,000 to my name total. So I'm dead fucking broke. And I'm like, well, I need this 2 days of training money. So I remember I called on Sunday, because I knew if I called on Sunday, nobody would answer. I was a chicken shit. And I'm like, hey, I tore my ACL, on my right leg. I was super specific, playing basketball, so I'm not gonna be able to drive in, and do the training, so I'm gonna have to take, a couple months off. And basically I made it so it sounded like I couldn't drive to work and there was no way I could get there. So A, they wouldn't expect me to come in after like a week or two, and two, they would mail me my check. That's probably one of the low points of me as a person. And then I kind of turned my shit around from there. And then I met my wife the next day at a bar, and I'm like, hey, I have no job and no money, but I'm fit and hopefully you find me attractive. So hey, maybe let's hook up. And the rest is history. So that's my work history for you guys in terms of how I remember it. I probably forgot a job or two in there, but that essentially is where I'm at. So next thing on the list, the journey from where you are from an all or nothing mentality to having some self-control today. Example, like how I control myself with peanut butter. Yes, I have gotten way better with self-control in peanut butter now that you mentioned that. Actually, there's a jar of peanut butter at our house right now, and I just opened it 2 days ago, and I've ate a little bit of it. I put some on an Ezekiel muffin the other day, probably about 2 tablespoons-ish, give or take. And my dog has ate the rest of it so far. How did I do that? You know, honestly, I think it comes with time, practice, and maturity for sure. Because for the longest time, I would eat a whole jar of peanut butter in a day. I've done it before. I've ate a whole jar of Justin's almond butter in a day as well. I've eaten at least 5 Power Crunch bars at one sitting. I've ate 2 pizzas easily at a dinner before. Have I eaten a whole bag of Oreos? I don't know if I ate a whole bag of Oreos, but I probably ate like a sleeve plus a bunch of other shit. So I don't do that stuff anymore. And I think the biggest thing is it just takes practice. And honestly, for me, it takes feeling like shit so many times to where you just get fed up, right? Like the saying is you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's when you make a change. And all of a sudden it's like it just happens. And we think of it because like, okay, it goes from like you did it on Wednesday, but you stopped doing it Thursday. And it is this like quick snap of a finger, instantaneous change. But it only happens that way because you fucked up so many times before, at least for me. And just understanding like, if I keep doing this, I'm going to keep feeling like shit. I didn't want to keep going through the same cycle of like feeling like crap and then feeling good and then having eaters. I never really had eater's remorse. I just remember like laying in bed feeling like garbage, or just having like this big pregnant, belly, even though like you have abs, but yet you're like pregnant, but you're a dude. So it's like a terrible look. And it goes away in a day, but it's like, you ever like would binge so hard where it's like you ate Cold Stone and pizza and all this shit, and you wake up and it's like your face is puffy, your fingers are like these, thick sausages, like they're just, you have this external inflammation, and then all of a sudden you're going to the bathroom like erratically and you're farting 47 times. Like I got tired of that shit. And so when I first started in fitness, I'm the first one to say this, like, yes, I started to do it to be healthy, but then you get to the point where you do feel good, and then you get loose with your own rules, right? And I would get loose with my own rules, and then all of a sudden I found myself kind of, sick from overeating, and you just get tired of it. And it took me a long time to make the progress. So you do things to safeguard yourself. You don't keep garbage at home. You start to understand what foods you can or can't have in the house. But it just takes patience and time and practice. And now it's like, I don't crack now unless I want to. I don't just fuck up on a Tuesday because I had a bad day. I don't stress eat anymore. I can now have a beer, and I'm not the guy who has to have 20 beers. Like, if you watch in our office right now, like we have guests on the podcast, obviously, to offer people, hey, do you want a water, coffee, beer? We actually have in our fridge here, whether you guys realize it or not. And then behind me, if you watch on YouTube, we have a bottle of whiskey. This is actually the Monkey Shoulder whiskey, which is actually really good. I have always been a whiskey fan. Like, even when I smell it, like it's Monkey Shoulder makes a good whiskey. There's a lot of there's obviously like Lagavulin and stuff, but you got to be in the mood for like the smoky stuff. Anyways, there would have been a time in my life where I couldn't have had beer in the fridge here, or I couldn't have had like whiskey just sitting behind me without just like going from zero to fucked up in an instant. And that comes with, I think, age, honestly, and maturity and time. And most people mature and are probably way smarter than me earlier on, but hey, I got here and here I am now. So I just think it takes practice. And to answer the question, to nail it home, it's just, you have to really want to be healthy. You have to really value feeling good. You have to be, again, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, man. It's just like how people really get out of debt. You got to be just fed up with like paying interest to other people. And if you want to acquire wealth, you want people to pay interest to you. You have to just be sick of being in the system and being sick of being in the same cycle that you've always been in. That's why people struggle to get out of debt. That's why people struggle to get, into shape, because they're in the same cyclical pattern and they're not fucking tired enough of it yet. You have to get to the point where you're almost like disgusted with yourself and how you've been living and how you've been acting and what you've been doing. And you have this kind of, for lack of a better term, like come to Jesus moment. And it might change in an instant, and it might take you a bunch of time, but that instant change only came from, the things you've done in the past and getting to your breaking point of just being like, hey man, I just can't do this shit anymore. And that's really where I got to it with the food. And then I've just kind of refined and honed that skill over time. But it's mental. It really is, man. It's that's why I say, I might not be able to pass an 8th grade math test, but mentally, I'm in a different space in terms of like what I'm willing to sacrifice and how patient I'm willing to be with certain things, and how I'll push myself in my head to make my body and my mouth and my mind do certain things. Next one. Have you done a specific podcast on the concept of delayed gratification? I think we have. I don't know. We've done like 350 episodes. I don't know, but I'm a huge fan of that, obviously. I'm probably one of the most patient people you'll ever meet with everything. I can't delay gratification forever, because obviously one day I'm going to drop dead, but the way I've lived my life up to this point has been very methodical and thought out, and I've been meticulous with it. And I don't want to say I always think of the worst case scenario, but like my buddy Ben and I will talk like, hey, if the world went to black, could we make it? If everything went to shit, could we still survive? Could we see things through? Did we set ourselves up with all the hard work we've put in the past to allow us to have a chance in the future? And that's kind of how I do most things. I think that's why you should have an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's why I think if you run a business, you should have a certain number of retained earnings you feel confident with. And I think, I invest, obviously, in the market. I'm a huge fan of the stock market, and I believe in America. And but I don't buy single stocks. I'm not just going to go buy, Amazon stock. I'm not just going to go buy Boeing stock. I'll buy things in mutual funds that are wrapped, and I'll diversify things. I'm not going to go, hey, put $100,000 into, Nike today. Like, that's not how I do things. I play it probably a little bit closer to the vest than some other people, and that's fine. Like, I don't need $50 million. If I end up with, 5, like, that's fine. Like, I don't do it for that, but you got to be patient with those things. And I think if you are, like, you're going to win in the long run. And a lot of people worry about the scoreboard and checking the clock every 2 minutes of where they're at and how much money they made or how many followers they have and fans and likes, and they're on quarter 1, 2, and 3. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if you lose all 3 quarters. If you win the fucking game, man, that's the point. And so sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. But, and again, if you're trying to be fit, you're gonna have to be patient. Like, it's just part of it. If you're trying to change your body and how it looks, you have to have a certain level of patience and common sense. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. And I think probably some of the greatest life lessons I've ever got are from sports. And for me, probably because I was never naturally great at anything. Like, I'm athletic enough. Like, I'm fast. Like, I can run fast. I can jump high. I could dunk a basketball at 15, 16 years old, and I still can to this day, which is crazy. So I have like a certain level of athletic natural ability, but I'm not Russell Westbrook athletic. I'm not LeBron James athletic. Like, I'm not that gifted, but I always worked hard for the skill of things, and it always took me a long time to get good. So it took me years to get good at playing basketball. It took me years to get good at playing baseball. It took me years to get good at bowling, right? It took me years to get good at shooting firearms. And so there's just a level of patience that's built into sport. That's helped me in school. That's helped me in relationships. That for sure has helped me in business. And it's helped me in investing and saving money. And so I think it's important, and you have to understand, if you want to be good at anything, it's going to take time. And it's going to take way more time than you want. And it's going to be frustrating. It's going to be hard as shit, especially when you first start. But if you're consistent and you're willing to put in the work today to get a payoff 10 years from now, you're going to be okay. Next one. How about intermittent fasting? Is it good? Yes. I got 3 other podcasts on intermittent fasting. Check them out. Next one. Naturally boosting testosterone when you're naturally deficient. Naturally doing it? get quality sleep, eat an awesome diet, maybe like a Tribulus or like a DHEA, I think are the natural ones. We have a whole podcast with Dr. Ben Evans on testosterone, how to naturally boost it. And obviously he's a fan of, HRT, hormone replacement therapy. So that might be a great podcast for you to check out. Next one, how to simply get started, to lose belly fatness. I think I actually have a podcast titled Lose Belly Fat or something like that. Give it a listen. Next one on the list, how do you stay consistent with your mindset and your mood? It's tough during this season of life. I'll tell you that, man. Like, there's days where during this shit, I even felt like I was faking it. And what I mean by that is I would be having a shitty day and I would still come on and give you guys a podcast on cellulite or a podcast on 5 fat loss tips. I don't know. The technical stuff I can always do because it's just, we've written these blogs already or emails, or we've written these in ebooks, or it's stuff I've shared with friends, and it's things that I just technically know about because this is what I do. But it's hard, man, to stay consistently positive when shit's crashing down around you, and when every day things are changing and typically not always for the better. And like in Arizona, where it's like the goalpost is shifting of like when your business can open or be closed, and you're from a standpoint of us, like the in-person gym, that is. The online stuff has been great for us. I love all you guys, but the in-person stuff, it's tough. Like, you run a service business, it relies on people to show up, and no new people are showing up, and a lot of the people here are not coming back, at least right now, because they lost their job, or they're scared, or they're away for the summer, or whatever the thing is, or they don't like they don't want to do online training, so they're going to leave us and just going to hang out until the gym's back open. And it's like you built something for a decade, and it's just like it just gets fucking murdered because no fault of your own from a pandemic. And luckily I can pivot and have a podcast, and we have all these other awesome avenues where we can coach and help people and do things, and the partnerships and sponsorships and stuff. But it ain't easy, for sure. Like, when it's raining, you're trying not to get wet, and it's like you're just getting wet, man. So the way I think about that is my mindset doesn't change. There's a lot of stuff I can't control, and to quote my man Corey Smith, who he always used to tell me, Jeremy, control your controllables. And that's all I can do. And so I don't really think of anything other than like one day at a time right now. Like, obviously this week I have some stuff planned with our camera guy who's going to finally come in and shoot a bunch of stuff, and with my wife and things. But I basically I work one day at a time right now. My wife's like, well, what do you want to do in these 2 weeks? I'm like, Heather, I can't tell you what I'm going to do fucking tomorrow night. So I can't tell you in 10 days from now. And I don't do that to be pessimistic. It's just the truth, because things have changed and shifted here so fast and so much. So I just take things one day at a time right now. And I'm mapping out stuff for the future and planning things. And we talk about that here with Monica and what we're doing in terms of our program launches and those things. But it's hard right now for sure, man. But the thing that's helped me the most is understanding perspective and having gratitude for who I am. In the way that I think, and in the things that I've done, and the way that I've positioned my life, I am very grateful for that. And I understand the seat that I sit in is probably not ideal for most people, and the stress of it, I think, would be rough for a lot of individuals, and they'd have a hard time doing all the work necessary to keep all the parts moving and hold everything together and actually make forward strides, instead of taking backward strides and just like trying to wait it out, or just huddling in a corner and crying. But with that said, like, I'm me, and I know a lot of other people are, they're dying, or they're sick, or they've lost their homes, or they've lost their businesses, or they've lost their jobs, and I'm still in a position to where I can help people, and I can make money, and I can still touch a lot of lives through the platforms that we've built. So I'm very blessed and fortunate for that. And so I always come back to the phrase, if we all threw our problems in a pile in the middle of the room, and you could see all the other shit everybody in your neighborhood, in your city, in your state, in your country was dealing with, and you saw your problems, you would probably sprint back in that pile and grab your problems real quick before you grab somebody else's. And I don't like to play the comparison game, but it's just the truth, man, because I know as shitty as this has been for me, man, I've gotten punched in the face and kicked in the nuts a lot, and so has my wife. It could be way worse, and I know that, and I'm very fortunate and very blessed. So I just try to really have perspective and gratitude in my life. Of the 8 billion people in the world, I don't really got a lot to bitch about, even though I guess I could every day, and I guess some of it would be justified in the concerns and the worries, but man, that's all I tell myself. And even, I ask myself, hey man, if you'd asked me if this was going to happen in January, I told you crazy, and I would have said it sucked ass. But if you would have go back, to 2009 and say, hey man, in 2009, Jeremy, your business is going to have to be closed. There's going to be a global pandemic. People are going to do this, this, and this, but here's what your stat sheet looks like. I'd be like, hey man, I'll take it any day of the week. And so that gives me solace, I guess, and that's how I just try to be positive. And I just understand I have a different gift to be able to speak to people and write things to them and show them exercise and be a positive force in their life when they're having a much shittier day or time than me. And even if my day is fucking worse than theirs, if I have the ability to chew on that shit and swallow it and then spit back out some positive stuff, that's what I'm here to do. I'm put on this earth to do that, and that's what I'm trying to do for everybody every single day. Even if I'm having a bad fucking day, I try to wake up and be like, what can I do to help other people not have a bad fucking day? And that's going to pay me back, whether it be maybe not this year, maybe next year, maybe 2022. But I do believe in karma, and I believe it's real. And so I just can't be sad and say, poor me. If I can gut through it and help other people, that's what I'm going to do. And that helps my mindset, and that helps put me in a good mood. Next one. Getting the right getting the right mindset after sliding back after, reaching your goals. I just think you always have to be setting new goals, man. You just do. Again, I can't, it's got to be the process. That's why I say you have to love the process. As, cliche as it sounds, I've reached a lot of goals, and then I'm always kind of like, what next? I think you should celebrate them. I'm terrible at celebrating goals and taking, hey, Jeremy, great job, let's celebrate. I'm not great at that stuff. I'm just kind of like, it's cool, but what's the next thing? But I always try to set these little goals. And for me, it's not just like, hey, make this money. It's like the goal for Monday. What can we put out Monday that's going to be awesome? What can we create Tuesday that's going to be amazing? So I'm a fan of little goals. Even if you might not be hitting the big ones at times, little stuff. It's always, to me, the little things. And I just always love the process of it, of creating and helping and seeing, what I'm doing today may not pay off for 2 years, but I'm okay with that. So I think to keep your mind right, you have to have mini goals, and those are daily goals. And you can't get too hung up on reaching one. And oftentimes, reaching the goal becomes sometimes deflating because you're kind of in that what next mentality. So having something you enjoy and love to do each day, I think is crucial. Next one. What is the average time a person should train to stay healthy? Honestly, most people, 30 minutes, 3 times a week for 52 weeks is ideal. So 3 by 30 by 52 for most of you is great. And on the other days, if you can just walk your dog or do anything, mobility and foam roll, you'll be a fit, healthy person, barring you get good sleep and don't eat like shit. Next one. How long would you last in a UFC fight? The women's division, maybe 30 seconds, because I probably would just run around for the first 20 until they knocked me out. But if I could somehow just fall on top of one of them because I'm so heavy, maybe I would make it a minute. But that's the women's division. Dudes division, we talked about this last night. I'm heavy, so I could maybe, if I starve myself, cut to 185, but I would be dying at 185. And I couldn't make it to 170, so I'd be fighting. At 170, I'd be fighting Masvidal or Usman. But that means I'd have to lose 50 pounds or something. I don't think it's possible, dude. So I don't know. I would just try to make it longer than Ben Askren. So Ben Askren made it 5 seconds against Masvidal. I figure I could make it 10 because I could just move around the cage a little bit till he clipped me. But that'd be me not making weight. And so a 185er, that'd be fighting Anderson Silva. I don't know, man. 15 seconds I give it total. So I think he hits me once, I'm gonna cry. Next question on the list. Where are we at here? Best exercise to keep your groin muscle and hip flexors strong and healthy. Honestly, I'd start with mobility for sure. Lateral lunges, I do think would be great. Bodyweight stuff is awesome. The Buddha squats and things like that are probably ideal, but that's kind of the route I would go. And the last one here is, this guy asked a personal question. His dad is overweight and also has back pain, which unfortunately are not mutually exclusive. They want him to eat better and exercise, but he's stubborn and lazy and in pain. He does not want to and will not cook, so he only orders takeout. He says he orders salads, but he's not perfect. I know he orders other stuff that has a bunch of trans fats and those things. Do you have any specific advice that he can start to help him start losing weight? Well, if I've learned anything over the past 15 years, doing this, it's you can't want something more than other people want it for themselves. I know that's tough to hear, but I can want people here to reach their goals all day long, but unless they really give a shit and do it, it's not going to happen. So, they're going to have that getting sick and tired of being sick and tired moment, having that come to Jesus moment. All you can do is lead by example and, share podcasts with them like this, share articles, get them on newsletters, be healthy yourself, eat well around them, educate them about, the pitfalls of not being healthy, make fitness the outcome of an activity, not the goal. Find something they like to do, whether it's shoot hoops with you or ride a bike with you or go for a walk with you. Prompt them to be active, and that's really it, man. And if people, again, they don't want to and won't cook, it's going to be super hard, dude. Like, most people aren't going to go to salads to go every day. Most people aren't going to go to Grab a Greens every day or Chop Shop every day. They're going to go to McDonald's. They're going to order unhealthy shit. It really begins with education and having them care and having them have a circle of people who want to be healthy. And so all you can do is be a positive fountain of information for them and just show them by your actions. And they really have to care. There's people in my family and there's people in my close circle that are not healthy. And there's nothing I can do, man. And I think that if I want to be, on a serious note, probably look at one of my biggest failures. It would be getting the people who are, sometimes closest to me not take their health and fitness serious and not make it a priority. But, there's nothing I can do about that. And I don't feel bad about it. I used to take it personal. I'm like, well, if they would just do this, and it's like, I don't sell people programs. I don't sell people fitness. I don't sell people coaching. I don't sell them anything we do here. I say it to everybody. I'm like, if you want to be here, be here. If you don't, then don't. Like, because I'm not going to sell you this service that requires you to do work. I'm not going to sell you on a lifestyle that you should want to do yourself. It's why when people we get in a call and they're like, what do you think I should do? I'm like, well, here's the options. Here's what I suggest. But I'm like, ultimately, it's up to you. You can't convince somebody to eat healthy if they don't want to. You just can't. Like, there's people who go to the cardiac, heart hospital, and then they're eating shit in the fucking lobby, or their mom or dad or husband or wife is in there getting stents put in, and they're eating fucking McDonald's in the lobby. That really happens. I'm not making that up. Like, if that doesn't show you wow, our culture and we don't really value health and give a shit, I don't know what does. So you have to start with educating people on what healthy food is, what is good, what is bad, what's going to heal your body, what's going to happen if you don't do this. And the funny thing I always say is it's odd. People thought they would get older and become more mobile. They get older and think they become more flexible. They get older and they think they would have thicker hair or less gray hair, and be less wrinkly, and be stronger and have more energy. No, that doesn't happen. After the age of probably 25, your hair is going to probably get thinner unless you're genetically gifted. It'll probably fall out. It'll probably be gray. You're going to get wrinklier. You're going to get some aches and pains. You're going to have worse mobility. You're going to have some injuries if you don't take the steps to improve them. Now, you can be fit as shit till you're 90, but you got to work at it. You got to put the time in. You have to care about it. You have to educate yourself. You have to really want to do it. And your wife can want you to, and your husband can want you to, and your kids and your family can want you to, but until you give a shit about yourself it's not going to happen, man. So it's really tough. But the biggest thing I would say, any advice I'd give them to start, walk every day. Walk 30 to 60 minutes every single day. Anybody can do that. The laziest person on the planet can go for a walk and listen to a podcast for 30 to 60 minutes. So just do that. Do some mobility a couple times a week. Get your ass foam rolling. Please do that. Ride your bike. Do a couple bodyweight squats. Do some push-ups. Eat some vegetables. Take some athletic greens. Drink a shit ton of water. You know, don't eat fast food and drink booze every single day. Do things that are going to make you feel good. Get quality sleep. Like, all those things are basic stuff. But for most people, if you do nothing now, walking is great. If you eat no vegetables right now, eating one vegetable a day is an amazing start. And just go from there. Shallow end, deep end it. You don't got to, be Mr. Olympia tomorrow. You don't got to go run an Ironman, but you got to start somewhere. And if you can start walking, and if you don't walk at all now, walk every other day if you're that lazy. Anything will help. And hopefully that helps you help him. But he's really got to give a shit before anything you're going to say carries any major weight. And hopefully that helps. So, any other questions you guys have for me, hit me up, let me know. I think we'll have Heather on the podcast tomorrow, I believe. I don't know, she's got a couple topics for us to jive on. Also, a guy did ask about creatine in here. I'll do a whole podcast actually on creatine in detail, just because there's a lot to chew on and go over there, and I think I don't want to do it a disservice by trying to cram it in here really quick. So I'll do a whole podcast on that. But again, if you guys need anything, just let me know. And other than that, working on a bunch of programs coming to you guys, filming a lot of content this week. About to share the Sunday Man's Metcon with you here shortly. And again, reminder, this podcast brought to you by my homies at Athletic Greens. If you guys want to try 20 free travel packs, shoot me a message. I'll hook you up with the link for that. Or if you're really worried about it and you're not sure, I'll actually mail you one right to your front door, and then you can get the 20 free travel packs after that. So basically it's 21 free travel packs if you are really uncertain. And I promise you guys, it's well worth it. It's the one thing I take every single day to make me feel good and look like a younger, more jacked version of Bruce Willis. So, thank you guys. I appreciate you. If you happen to be on iTunes right now, stop. Do not be a lazy ass. Go to your podcast app on your iPhone. Scroll your finger all the way down the Jeremy Scott Fitness podcast. Click ratings and reviews. Hit a 5-star. Write me a sentence of how much you love it. I would appreciate it. And share this with a friend or family member you think it can help. Obviously, if you're on a MacBook or an iPad, go to the iTunes icon, click ratings and reviews, 5-star, and leave me a couple notes. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. And again, you guys, just stay safe and stay sweaty, and hopefully you're able to do some awesome stuff this summer, even though it's not probably how any of us really intended it to be. All we can do is make the most of the dumpster fire that currently is 2020. So thank you guys, and until next time, eat well, train hard, be nice to people, and please keep doing shit you love with people you enjoy, because your life is too short not to. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.